Hello, 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 and welcome to the flip side of adversity. I am Dr. Veirdre Jackson, the CEO and creative of Living Strong Consulting. Have you ever had that friend that when you're on the fence of whether or not you should do something that actually getting ready to change your whole life, and she says, "Girl, do it." And not only am I telling you to do it, I'm going to help you get it done. Well, that's the friend that I have asked to be with me this evening. Actually, when I thought of creating this series of conversations with women in understanding, unpacking, and being transparent about speaking out, standing up, living out loud, and fearlessly winning, she was actually the first person I thought of. And I said, if she says yes, then I know this is meant to be. And everything else flowed from there. I'm talking about Gina Curry. When we come back, we're going to talk about how do you stand in the power of your voice. She helped me activate my voice when in 2019, I questioned whether or not I should launch my book. And she sat across from me. We were at a Wegmans and she leaned in and she was like, "It's a good idea. You need to do it. And you know what? I'm going to help you get it done." We need more friends like that. When you're in a place of not sure of how to activate your voice, connect with other people who know how to do it and who will inspire you to do it unapologetically. You got some questions about it? Let's talk about it on the other side of adversity. We'll be right back. Trauma, toxic stress, broken habit, and hurting heart don't define destiny, but peace isn't passive. It requires an exchange. To create a flip and access peace in the middle of the pieces, you are challenged to make an exchange of the lies that have kept you mentally hostage in basement moments. Resilience isn't about bouncing back, but bouncing forward. Living Strong, the flip side of adversity, brings powerful stories and fearless conversations from experts in the field of business, relationships, emotional, physical, and mental health, and faith-based communities. Each episode creates a brave space with powerful tools from authentic connections. Tune in as we dig in with Dr. Jackson on the flip side of adversity. Hello again. So I gave you the sister friend version of my connection with this powerful woman to my left. And I now want to give you her receipts. State Representative Gina Curry has dedicated her career to serving her community and advocating for social justice and equitable opportunities. She was elected in November 2021. With over 20 years of experience as an educator, Gina has worked tirelessly to support youth and families in her community. She is a loyal advocate for equitable funding for education, economic development, and affordable housing. And I am honored that she said yes to our series as we talk about the power of standing in your voice. Welcome to the flip side of adversity, State Representative Gina Curry.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's watching. I appreciate you so much, Dr. Jackson, for having me on the show. And I know that there's great things that we're going to talk about in this hour that will be impactful to the folks that come across this interview.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the work that you continue to do to impact our communities. And thank you for just being you, that sister girl who's always there.
Oh.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
Oh, oh, I so appreciate you. Y'all already understand why she is here. And everybody and people are already in it. I know the applause, all of that is happening. And I want you to post your questions. And if they're relevant in the moment, we will absolutely try to address them. But I've got some questions, and I would actually like to take us back to that conversation in 2019. And I was getting ready to actually accept a yes from a publisher and was on the fence about my book. And you were talking about wanting to step into the arena to actively be a part of serving your community. And it was a yes on both sides. Can you share what is at the heart of what inspires you to stay so actively connected to communities at a time when there's such a huge need?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, um, you know, it really is my partner who I was
Mhm.
with for so many years, who unfortunately passed away in 2023 last year.
Mhm.
So it's been about 15 months. Mr. Rap Curry, that was my partner. That was my other half of me.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we did well together was talk about what our community needs were. And so now that he has passed on, in his legacy, I stay motivated that way because I know that there's so much more that needs to be done, like
Mhm.
every day.
Mhm.
When we talk about our youth, who he actively committed to
Mhm.
in his job and in his community. And I lift him up all the time now because I know we were doing that together. We
Yes.
were pushing and pulling each other. And now that he has passed on, it is my duty, honor, and responsibility as his wife to really think about the things that we were growing with together
Yeah.
and to really make them come to fruition. So, community is everything to me, my
Mhm.
community, communities throughout Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
And I'm so honored to be able to serve the folks who put me in the position.
Yeah.
But really and truly, it is about the nucleus of what Rap and I started.
Yes. That partnership, that passion, and you now continuing his legacy as truly an icon in communities. And so I think about how you are juggling so many different roles. You're not only a community servant, a state representative, an advocate, you're a mom, you're
Yes.
a leader, you're a volunteer. How do you juggle all of that and stay so laser focused and energized?
Well, now I'm energized around the people who I'm doing it for.
Mhm.
And I just want to lift up my children who have been
Mhm.
amazing in helping me to stay focused and to
Mhm.
remind me, hey, mom, dad will want you to be here.
Yeah.
He will want you to continue to do the things that you all started out planning. And look at you now. And
Mhm.
that's them all the time. You know, I have a daughter who graduated with her master's degree this summer. We've been supporting and pushing one another because in the midst of heartbreak, we know that God has
Mhm.
really held us up. And
Mhm.
so I I can't talk about this without bringing spirituality
Mhm.
into it,
Mhm.
Veirdre,
Mhm.
because really and truly, I woke up yesterday, it was my birthday,
Yes.
and I was so grateful. I said, Lord, look at you giving me another year,
Mhm.
another day, a chance to move forward. And I just appreciate all the love that I received yesterday, all the love, because when you are working hard and, like you put it, being narrowly focused, getting up with
Mhm.
a purpose every day, that's not easy. But I got up and in my devotion time,
Yes.
I was given Ephesians 2:10. And in that particular devotion, it said it was about a poem and how the poem is not over,
Mm.
that the stanzas are still being written. And wow, that made me take yesterday, which is celebratory, right? In the midst of heartbreak, to say, wow, there's still work to be done.
Yes.
Yes.
I love the context of the poem, the stanza in relationship to what I wanted to bring to the month of October and really understanding how our voice can be a source of power and
Mm,
influence. And when you think about the title of the overarching theme for this October of really speaking out, standing up, living out loud, and fearlessly winning, what when you think about the power of our voices, what do you want people to understand clearly?
not to be afraid.
Mm,
Not
mhm,
to be afraid,
mhm,
because I'll give you an example. I brought forth some legislation here in Pennsylvania this very week
mm,
around an ebony alert, which is an alert system that most people understand as the Amber Alert. But knowing that Black and brown girls, when they go missing, oftentimes they're looked at as runaways versus missing. And so it's very difficult, those ages between 12 and 24. The
mhm.
amount of young girls, I think it's at 40%, that go into human trafficking. I bring this up because before I went into the committee meeting, nervous, just like, oh my goodness, they're going to shoot it down. They're going to shoot this down because we already have a system. But the point of it is, we don't have the system that helps define missing Black and brown girls and boys who go missing and often don't get the media attention. So I
Mhm.
was in that committee meeting and I was like, don't be afraid, Gina. Do not
Mm,
be afraid. This is your chance to have a voice.
mhm,
You've been given that opportunity to have a voice, and you can't look back. You have to look forward
mhm.
and not have fear. Be
Yeah.
fearless. Remember that, Veirdre?
Yes.
Be fearless. Have those fearless conversations, because when you're using your voice, it's your voice to use. It's no
Yes.
one else's. And I tell
Yes.
young people that all the time. Use your voice. You have a seat at the table, or are you on the menu?
Mhm.
Do you want your voice to be heard or someone else's? It's your decision. So when we use our voice, it is ours to use.
And not be afraid of what someone else is going to think.
Exactly.
When it is your turn to speak, do you have something to say or not? And actually grab that moment. I was with a room of leaders yesterday, and we were talking about, actually, day before yesterday, we were talking about recognizing that in this season and time, indifference is not an option. You can't just be indifferent,
You can.
and recognizing that I shared former Representative John Lewis's a portion of his statement that our children and their children will look at this moment
Mm,
and ask, what did you say and what
mm,
did you do?
that's right.
And so it's recognizing, stand on the integrity of why you are in the room. And regardless of what you think someone else is going to say, be unapologetic about the assignment you have. Now, you shared you are in very big, influential rooms.
Yeah.
I would love for you to talk to the individual who doesn't have the platform that you have, but they feel like they want to begin saying something. Where should they start?
Mm. I had a young woman reach out to me on LinkedIn. She just graduated from GW.
Mhm.
She was bold to go into my inbox and say, "Hi, Representative Curry. I am blank, blank. And I've been watching what you're doing and I want to meet you." And I'm thinking back to myself when I was 25. I'm like, would I have done that? I don't think so. But let me tell you what happened to her as a result. I accepted her message. I
Mhm.
said, "Hi, I'm so glad you reached out because there's nothing better to me as a young person coming and saying, hi, I
Mhm.
want to learn more."
Mhm.
So I said, let me take this opportunity. So I told her she lives in the DMV.
Mhm.
And I said, you're welcome to come up to the Capitol at any time. We're about to be on our last session days, though. So if you want to come now, you can come this week. I have some great things happening. We have a bill signing for my Black maternal health work. And I said, who knows? You might get to meet a few people. And she was like, I'm in. So she came up. That
I
was
love
the day that
everything about
we had a
this.
doula roundtable that morning. We
Yes.
had the wonderful Ellen Jo Waller
Oh,
from Enon
yes,
come up
yes.
to support me as I talked about the Ebony Alert
Yes.
legislation, because she works so
She's
very
so
hard
passionate. Mhm.
on many things, but
Mhm.
her big thing, human trafficking. So she was up there, and this young woman, Rebecca, she was up there too. She got to not only be a part of witnessing the roundtable, the doula roundtable at 9 a.m., but at 10 a.m., she went into the committee meeting on the Ebony Alert. And then the great part was she got to be on some press conferences. And guess who she got to meet during the bill signing? Governor Shapiro. And on her way out, we ran into Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis. That young woman was not afraid to make the connection. She was like, I'm making the connection. And we told her, we were like, Rebecca, this doesn't happen. This doesn't normally happen
Yes.
in this day. It just so happened that that Tuesday was so full and so rich with opportunity that she, because of her courage,
Yes.
using her voice and stepping forward, she also got to meet the Speaker of the House, the first Black woman Speaker of the House.
Yes.
So she was put in position
Yes.
because she did not fear her voice.
Mhm.
And I would encourage folks to think about that, how you can use your voice without pushing too much,
Mhm.
without being out of pocket or out of line,
Mhm.
but within boundary to say, hello, I'm just trying to connect. What does that look like?
Yes, engage in a conversation, not come with an argument, and actually like lean in to be able to connect. I love, as you said, her courage, and she stepped out to just take a risk.
Right.
And how many people won't make that step?
Right.
It's been in the back of their mind and they're holding on and they're waiting and they're missing opportunities. Step out and take a risk. But I don't want to miss how you, as a servant leader, said yes.
Yeah.
And when I think about the opportunity for leaders to really understand how to see people,
Mm.
what would you actually help leaders understand about being able to be accessible, to be present, to sharpen their ability to listen?
Well, I've learned from the best. Um, looking at you right now, I mean, I think about the position that we were in 2019, going back to helping one another as sisters. I was already an elected during that time, and I
Mhm.
remember going to a local cafe
Mhm.
and us sitting there, and I'm like, I want to move further.
Yes.
Just couldn't figure out what.
Mhm.
And I was already serving a school board,
Yep.
which in 2019 we hadn't even hit the pandemic, so I didn't
Right.
even know what was coming towards me
Right.
like a rolling train,
Yes.
right? That was going to prepare me
Mhm.
in such a way to be able to be ready for the state house.
Yes.
But I've had close leaders sitting right next to me,
Mm.
friends, and I've had those who have taught me the way to be an open-eared, open-minded, open-spirited servant leader,
Mhm.
the folks who listen. And that's part of my leadership. I want to listen to the people.
Mhm.
I can't ever get but so high where I can't listen to the people who are around me. I still live in a community. I am not in the White House. I'm not in a mansion on a hill.
Yes.
I'm in my community. with community members, which still means that I'm a community member. And so I never look at, oh, I'm a leader, so
Mhm.
that's beneath me. No,
Mhm.
I always look at it that, oh, I've been positioned by God Himself and
Mhm.
covered to be a leader,
Mhm.
that which in turns helps me to never forget where I was and who is around me. And that's really important to me. So leadership should always look like that.
Yeah.
How am I growing? And how am I staying close and connected to those who you want to build the bench to come forward? You never want to get on an island. You always want to be that one who looks around and says, let me talk to folks. Because it also helps you to build.
Yes,
Yeah,
and really understand the experiences of those who are around you who have different lived
exactly.
experiences, who are who actually are craving, especially post-pandemic, to feel seen
Right,
and seen by someone whose voice has greater access than their own.
right.
When I think of all that has transpired, and you shared it, we were talking in 2019, having no idea
Oh my.
about the pandemic that was in front of us, and you actually got elected in like the throes of it all
Right.
in 2021.
Yes.
And so this show is about the flip side of
Hmm.
adversity. And I know I posted on my Facebook page this morning one of my favorite pictures of us. But it literally, there are so many things people could say about you, one as a survivor, as a warrior. So when you think of some of the most challenging experiences that you've had to overcome,
Mhm.
especially as a leader who is a servant leader, is there one that comes to mind? And then can you help us understand how you overcame it?
Mm. I think really trying to grow on my journey as a
Mhm.
leader, right?
Mhm.
I came into the office that I'm in now because unfortunately someone had to step down. A very
Mhm.
strong Black woman who made a lot of inroads in that space.
Mhm.
And I always give respect to her for that. But I had to step down. And so
Mhm.
when you are going into a space like that, that's not an open road, V.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
is a
Mhm.
space where you have to absolutely prove yourself,
Yeah.
absolutely go in and make your mark the way it needs to be made. Because when there's a legacy of someone who built something
Mhm.
and then you're coming in behind them in their footsteps, you have to let people know, hi, I'm Gina H. Curry. I'm here now. And so that's adversity.
Yeah.
That's rocky. That's curvy and it's bumpy because many times people don't want to let go
Mhm.
or people already have preconceived notions of what it's going to be. And
Mhm.
so when I think about overcoming that really hard first year, and
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
because it was a special election, having to run again, the very, I
I
got
remember that.
sworn
Yes.
in December, had to get back on the ballot in February of the
Mm.
next year. So I was working, trying to ride through that journey, trying to
Mhm.
figure out staff, who was with me and who wasn't, trying
Mm.
to figure out how to impact a community that had been underserved for so long and still is,
Mhm.
and how to really figure out what my purposing was in it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
adversity.
Yeah. Yeah. How to identify what will be your distinctive voice apart from,
100.
but still continuing a legacy, but
Absolutely.
establishing who you're going to be
Right.
and having people actually see you separate and apart.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was a leadership moment on my journey to say, can I handle this?
Mhm.
Is this something that I can do? Because there are going to be bumps and pitfalls and things that we have to handle, especially when we're on a freshman road,
Mhm.
right? A new
Mhm.
road. I wasn't a new leader to that
Mm-mm.
community,
Mhm.
but I was indeed someone who was coming in a space that had been a little injured
Mhm.
and needed some healing.
Mm.
And so that's a tough space to be in. And I thank God he provided the people to come around me to help that happen because I never do anything alone.
Yeah. Yeah. You said a word, and as you shared it, it just went to my soul. So, as you think about the healing that our communities need to experience,
Mm.
how do you want to be an influence or a conduit for the healing experiences that so many individuals as well as neighborhoods and communities are bleeding and suffering?
Mm. That is a tough question because I'm kind of bleeding and suffering
Mm.
right now from my own journey, right?
Mhm.
Very much in a healing space. I love that little
Mhm.
icon on with the
Yes.
little ribbon. That's like
Yes.
my constant icon because I wake up wanting to heal from the heartbreak that I've had by losing my partner, my life partner.
Mhm.
And when I think about communities who are also trying to heal from his loss, the ones that we're in, I go over to that school district all the time and people are like,
Mhm.
hey, Gina, what's happening? I actually serve the community
Mm.
where he served,
Mhm.
which was very unique for us as a couple. But when I think about our communities that have been underserved,
Mhm.
underfunded, overlooked, when I think about families who have built generations in a community like mine where I live and the others that I represent, you have to, I know this sounds so cliche and like, but you have to be able to give people hope.
Not cliche at all.
You
It's
have to
truth.
be able to give people hope. And the hope that I give is to try to listen and then suggest,
Mhm.
recommend, connect
Mhm.
folks to the next space that will try to give them some hope.
Mhm.
It's not a full solution,
Mhm.
it's not a miracle worker. It is really just helping people to know this is a journey, but we can make it together.
Yeah.
And we're open, we're here to help folks who really need the help. And I'm going to tell you, people come in and they're usually in a despair, they're in a disparity. They're in that moment of really a critical point where they're about to break sometimes. They're yelling, they're screaming, they're feeling
Mhm.
angry at any system that has let them down. And what we do is we try to help people to get calm and then try to peel the onion off,
Mhm.
right? Because there's so many things that are built up. And the other thing, Dr. V, we don't take it personal. Listen,
You are educating many leaders, not
right.
just people in
We
your
don't take it
office.
personal, right?
That's a whole truth.
It is.
Because if we as leaders are more worried about being offended
Listen,
than being a source of hope, we get caught up in our feelings and we lose the ability to actually hear and be effective
right.
and be something different from the person, the organization, the institution that caused the hurt in the first place. We have actually in those moments that might be heated, we actually have an opportunity to be something
Mm,
different
yes,
than what
indeed.
they're expecting, showing up differently. Yes. Yes. Oh, when you're thinking about people today, in this season, in this climate of
Mm,
everything that's happening, what do you want people to understand and
mm.
know? That I know it's so much. I know it's so much. But where could we start? What do you want them to understand and know?
Because I know the growing angst that happens in our communities, right? um, what I've heard from folks, just feeling a sense of despair and really
Mm.
talking to a lot of young people because I have young adults in my house now. And we taught them to have a voice, right?
Yes.
And they have great voices. I'm so very proud of them, even the baby girl. Um, but in having a voice, sometimes we can get weary.
Mm.
And so I want young people to know, particularly, and wise folks too, that there is always room to grow, that we need to take the love that we have within us,
Mhm.
the ideas that we have about what's happening around us, and really taking a pause to understand how what we do today will impact us for the next two
Mhm.
cycles.
Mhm.
The next two cycles, which means 8 years.
Yeah.
I often talk to people because rap used to talk to me about this. Hey, G, what's your 5 year plan?
Yeah.
I wasn't really a planner.
Mhm.
Kind of like a, hey, I woke up this morning, day to day. Let's
Be
see
like,
what's happening.
"Let's
Let's do
go."
it. Let's go. Always gonna go. And that man was a man who was like, let's plan.
Mhm.
Where do you see us
Mhm.
in 5 years? Where do you see us in 10 years? And to your point, and to your question, we have to be goal setters.
Yeah.
I did it yesterday. I was like, okay, I got another year. Thankfully, I woke up and I pray I make it through the entire year to the
Mhm.
next year.
Mhm.
Got 364 days now
Mhm.
to really try to understand what the goal is,
Mhm.
how to impact every day, but to think about, Gina, what you're doing today, how's it going to impact your year? What you're doing today, how's it going to impact your next 5 years? And then what do you want to see in 10?
Mhm.
Do you still want to be struggling, trying to pay the gas at the pump? You
Mhm.
still want to be talking about the grocery bill, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So it's really important to be educated
Yes.
about what these systems are about.
Yeah.
We don't have time. We do not have time
Mm.
to lie dormant. And I've been telling a lot of people we don't have time to take a nap
None.
because you know how sometimes you're like, oh, I'm gonna lay down for a power nap, and you end up because you're so exhausted, you sleep for 45 minutes to an hour and 15, and you wake up and you're really tired. You're like,
Mhm.
why do I feel so exhausted? I just took a nap.
Mhm.
It's because you missed out
Yeah.
on what's really going on because you
Yeah.
napped and you napped too long. We don't have
Mm.
time to nap, Dr. V.
Mm-mm.
We got to pay
Mm-mm.
attention to what's happening now. And we can get our rest, but we really need to pay attention what's happening now because it is going to impact the next 5 and 10 years.
Absolutely. And recognizing that you sleep on this moment and you will wake up
Hmm.
and everything could potentially be different and counter what we absolutely need for those as we stand as voices, as we stand in spaces, and recognizing, I agree that there isn't the option for us to sleep in this moment, and
Mm-mm.
we have to get educated. And what do you say to the Insta community that literally is just getting their information from Instagram or TikTok? Like what are you saying as a leader to those who it's an Insta generation?
Yeah, it's an instant generation. I think, the way the days of old, like you and I are in a generation. I won't say the generation, but you and I are in a generation, and most people wouldn't even believe that we're in that
I
generation because
know. Mhm.
it's just
Mhm.
holding up.
Uh-huh.
But we were in a generation where our parents told us something
Mhm.
and we bought in, right?
Yes.
We have a generation who we're raising who is very much different. Is that our fault? I don't know. But it's not a bad thing. It's just the fact that I would encourage folks to continue to do the research,
Yeah.
be well read, understand that
Mhm.
every video that's
Mhm.
out there isn't truth. It can be a sheep.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It can
Yep.
be um, a space where you're going to lay down and take a nap. It's going to cause you to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Just like when you eat too much,
Mhm.
you're too full to the
Yeah.
point where you're going to be asleep and
Yeah.
you're not really going to pay attention. So you have to stay trim.
Yeah.
You have to have a focus and not believe everything that's going on in those
Mhm.
in the whirlwind, because you can get, you know how a tornado looks. It
Mhm.
comes and it takes everything around it.
Yeah.
And you see things going up in the tornado. That's not where we want to be.
Right.
We want
Right.
to we want to be, we
Right.
want to be lean
Right.
in what we're looking at.
Yeah. And I love how you pointed out um, everything you see in that snippet isn't truth. And so encouraging actually go to sources, dig a little bit deeper. That's why we can't nap. Like you actually
Exactly.
have to do your research,
You do.
be well informed, and get out, get out. When you are thinking about the things that literally you are waking up excited about because they energize you, your passion, what is that?
Wow. Well, like I said, this week, in the last couple of weeks, we got two bills to the
Yeah.
governor's desk, right?
Mhm.
So when you think about the excitement in my job, I'm a
Mhm.
lawmaker, but I'm also a community leader and somebody who wants to see the community have resources. Um, when I get up in the morning, some days I don't feel that energized. I feel
Mhm.
tired
Mhm.
because we work really hard. But on days where I'm like, okay, it's game time, right? It's game time. Anybody who's been an athlete out there, they're like, okay, we've done the practice. Now it's game time.
Yes.
I feel like I want more of those moments, Dr. V. So
Uh-huh.
the energy that I put into the practice
Yeah. Yeah,
to
yeah.
the everyday, let's move, let's find
Mhm.
out, let's research,
Mhm.
let's do the things that we need to do to hear from the people,
Mhm.
to do the best part of our jobs, that's
Mhm.
making the law that's going
Mhm.
to impact the
Mhm.
community, and not just today,
Mhm.
but for generations to come.
Yeah.
That's why the job that I do, I feel like is so important. It's life or death,
Mhm.
because to some people, they're hanging on to just that.
Yeah.
And so making myself feel
Mhm.
energized, it is about not just where I am today in 2024. It's about where am I going to be in 5 and 10 years? What would I like to see for my children
Mhm.
who have to come through a space right now, the way our community and societies are built? What hope do I have to give to them?
Yeah.
And what hope do I have to tell them to give to others?
Yeah.
And so it's almost like passing the baton, that
It
energizing passing the baton. When we're weary, we call each other and we
Mhm.
say, hey, look, be lifted up. I tell people all the time, because being elected can be very difficult, right? And people are like, I'm tired. Or maybe I talk to other people who are elected and they're like, I'm tired. I'm like, no. I said, as soon as you feel like that, energize yourself to know that there's
Mhm.
more work to be done,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you have to keep your balance.
Mhm.
You have to say, maybe it's time for me to step this way or that way, but understand what the purpose is to stay energized.
Yeah.
And if,
Yeah.
if that's not working, you got to move to the left or move to the right
Mhm.
to get in the right position to get that energy back.
Yeah. Again, a couple of days ago, had a conversation with leaders and really thinking about who are you going to be in the middle of change
Mm.
seasons. Sometimes we're so focused on the checklist of the do, but actually in these critical moments, it's thinking about who am I going to be first
Yeah.
and moving in that integrity. And you have such a voice and integrity around equitable practices, as
Mm.
I shared in your bio, over 20 years as an educator and impacting educational systems. What are you hoping for our children? What is important for us to understand about equitable practices for our youth?
Well, one of the things that I'm so very happy and proud about in being in this job right now and working as a legislator on the budget for this year coming
Mhm.
is the fact that the governor put $1.1 billion
Mhm.
into public education to really give them a boost
Mhm.
of where the disinvestment has been.
Mhm.
So I love to talk about the investment piece,
Mhm.
the side of, hey, look, we're depleted.
Mhm.
We need a pump up. Um, and so for our children, I always want the best.
Yes.
I want our children to know that there is a future waiting for them. And we want to continue as the folks. I always say when I grow up, because I always say that's what I'm gonna be when I grow up, because I just, I always feel like I would need to grow, but in that I want young people to know that they can.
Yeah.
Just like Rebecca this week.
Yeah.
She was in a space where she was like, wow, I can do this too. I always want young people to know that they have the opportunity to do whatever it is. We don't even have time to talk about my story today,
Mm-hmm.
but you know it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not ever. And I think the one thing you said to me way back, think about 7-year-old Gina.
Yes. Yes, I remember
I
that
do think about
conversation.
7-year-old Gina all the time,
Yeah.
and where I was at that time as a young little girl. Did I ever imagine?
Mm-hmm.
Could I have ever imagined?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is probably no, because at that time, I didn't have folks in front of me necessarily that was like, you can be whatever you want to be. And that's what I want to provide for young people. When I look into the faces of young people, from the tiniest to
Mm-hmm.
the youngest adult,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to say to them, you put your mind to it. Let's
Yeah.
connect. Let's do the best we can to get you where you need to be.
Yeah.
And for our kids, it means a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a cookie cutter situation, which I think we need to get away from
Right.
in this society, is knowing that everybody has their own journey and their own path.
Yes. And when I listened to you explain, and I remember that conversation of around 7-year-old Gina and the power of having representation in front of you. But when you talk about the legislation that you actively work and advocate for, it also sends a message. When we talk about that baton, it sends a message to our young people that you are so valuable to us that we will make the investment.
Absolutely.
We will advocate for the access. We will advocate and make sure that you have what you need for the richest education and opportunities, regardless of what path is best for you.
Right.
You have options.
Right.
And you have choices.
Yes.
And you're looking at this generation that said, yep, you are worth it. And we want to make sure that it happens.
How many people have you heard say, Dr. V, that their counselor told them, you can't do that?
Me.
My goodness.
Hello.
That's your story, right?
Hello.
You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that for you.
Literally. And we can you can literally change the trajectory of young people's lives, whether they're DMing you for an opportunity that you can say yes to, or you're standing in a room and you know a decision that's getting ready to be made, not even as a legislator as you, but just someone who is in a boardroom, in a classroom, in a meeting. You know that this decision is going to impact the most marginalized children, students, families in a way that will continue to perpetuate inequitable practices. What will you do? What will you say?
That's energizing.
Oh, I love it. Yes. When you're thinking about what people are getting confused on, and what do you want people to better understand? Because they're clearly confused in this season and time, in these moments. What do you want to clarify for them?
That we have a lot at stake. We have a lot at stake. If you really sit back and think about where you want your life to be, the successes that you see yourself in, and how you want to live, because we know there's so much inequity, um, so much lack of access on how people are able to obtain what they need, because I see it every day.
Mhm.
I want people not to get confused about what that looks like.
Mhm.
I want them to be clear and know that there's a lot at stake. There's a
Mhm.
lot that can be taken away
Mhm.
with the decisions that we make today.
Mhm. Mhm. You're bringing up for me the opportunity, and I feel like it's almost like we're creating a full circle moment of realizing that everyone doesn't have the lived experience that you have. And just because it may not be your story, it is somebody
Mm,
else's. And if we really are one another's keeper, then I care about it because it's going to affect you.
right.
And you are a human being doing the best you can, the same as me. We just don't necessarily have the same lived experience. But because I value you as a human, I'm going, it's going to be important to me. Mm, yeah, yeah. How do you stay connected? I know you mentioned listening, but how do you stay connected to the community so that you are actually accessing or addressing real root issues and needs?
I think what I try to do and what my team tries to do is to make sure we're tapped in to different levels of community activity.
Mhm.
So, making sure if you are a taxpayer in your community, and understand, folks, that you may be a renter or you may be a homeowner. No matter what, if you're living in a community, you are a taxpayer there,
Mm,
whether you're paying it through your mortgage or through your rent.
mhm,
And I always encourage people to be informed, because the fact of the matter is there are public meetings in government,
mhm,
local,
mhm.
state, and federal. You might be like, that's not my scene. I hear people say all the time, I don't like politics. I don't like what, I'm not political. The fact of the matter is, every one of us
Say
who
it.
live in this world
Yes.
have politics in
Yes.
everything that we do.
Whether you want to
Whether you want
understand
it
it
or
or
not,
not.
it is a part of it. So why not be educated? You
Mhm.
might not want to run for office, but here's the thing: as a community member, and even your children, can begin to educate them in that way. I had the wonderful opportunity to meet an icon on Monday
Mm.
in Reverend Dr. Jesse Jackson.
Mm.
He came to the
Mhm.
Capitol here in Pennsylvania, and we got to meet him. And unfortunately, that man who did so much work for a community and is still doing work is suffering from Parkinson's.
Mm.
And somebody who was a beautiful orator,
Mhm.
he his voice is hard to understand.
Yeah.
But I was so happy
Yeah.
to be in his presence, because I know the work that he's done with community. And when I think about him, I think about him talking about the involvement. He was actually at the Capitol, but guess what else he did that day? Went to the local county jail to have
Mm.
conversations about their voices
Yeah.
being connected, even though they're inside, how the impact of what's going on outside is still there. He did that on Monday. And so when I think about somebody who clearly has some physical and medical concerns now
Mhm.
at that wonderful age of 83,
Mm.
wow, right?
Still,
Still
still
moving,
making multiple visits.
still making multiple visits with his team.
Mm.
It was such an honor.
Mhm.
And when I think about Monday and having the honor to
Mhm.
be able to meet someone like that, who I know were running these streets,
Yes.
sharing with folks what their involvement means for impact, it makes me want to answer that question that you talked about in such a way, to say, make sure you make a meeting, whether you have
Mhm.
children in the public school or not. Make sure you go to the school board meetings because they're public, so you can hear where your tax dollars are going for the public schools. Because whether you think you're involved, whether you have children, you're a senior or whatever, you're paying a tax bill. They're called school taxes, and every single person pays them. Number two, go to your council meeting, your commissioners meetings in the county. I'm not saying you have to fill up your calendar with all of it, but be informed of when they are, and when you get a chance, pop in, because the way your money, your dollars are being
Mhm.
spent is critically important to the impact of you, your neighbors, your community, how things are being done. And then on the state and federal level, you need to understand what we actually are doing with the budget.
Mhm.
Budgets are very important to our everyday lives. They kind of dictate them, Dr. V.
Mhm.
And so I tell people, when it's time to make big decisions, like where we are today, we need to be able to be connected and ready to understand where the local is
Mhm.
impacting, the state, and the federal. That's called Civics 101.
Yes.
And it's critically important no matter who you are, whether you're just starting out as a young person, coming out of your parents' house, or if you still live there, because all of it matters. All of it matters. Whether you're a middle aged person
Mhm.
who is paying those bills and trying to pay your house off, all of it matters, because once you pay your house off, you still have to pay school taxes. You still
Mhm.
have to pay your city tax, or if you live in a community, you pay taxes. And I bring that back to say, if you're just paying and you don't know what you're paying for, you don't go into a store blindly and just pick up
Mhm.
stuff and pay for it. You want to make sure it's the right size. You want to make sure it's the right color. You want to make sure it's best for you and your family. And that's what this is about, that individual impact. Because at the end of the day, we are individually responsible for what we understand that's happening to us. Sure that we are making the right decisions and not falling asleep, but really understanding how it's impacting. I always say to people, don't complain once the decision has been made.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Don't
Do
complain
not
once
complain.
do
No.
not, because
No.
here's the fact: we have a voice. We have a voice. And whether you're timid to use it, be in the room so you can have, we all have ears, be in the room so we can listen, and then build to use your voice.
Yeah. And if you need support, ask for the support. Ask the questions. Actually ask those who can help you understand, but don't just fall asleep through this and say, I didn't know.
Yes,
That we cannot.
we can't do
We
that.
cannot say that.
It's not only what's at stake, it's detrimental
Yeah.
when you are not informed. And I think people talk about that word ignorance or
Mm-hmm.
ignorant, and people get offended. I'm not ignorant. No, ignorance simply means you are not informed.
Uh-huh.
And so we need to educate ourselves. And let me tell you, we know from past history, you mentioned
Mhm.
Representative Lewis. Just because you get up and use your voice, that's not always going to
Mhm.
mean that people are going to hear it or respond. But I was looking at something today. The way we respond is everything.
Mhm.
Because if you can respond in such a way, people will hear you.
Mhm.
It might not happen the
Mhm.
first time, it might not
Mhm.
happen the second time, but stay at it,
Mhm.
because the more informed we are, the more we use our voices, this is going to come together and work.
Mhm.
Most people around us want the same things. We want to be
Yeah.
able to raise our families,
Yes.
live in a good place, be able to put food on the table, and have security in our lives. That is an American and a worldwide
Mhm.
hope and prayer for all of us as we grow.
Mhm.
The thing is, we know it's inequitable.
Mhm.
So, in your space where you are today, you need to make sure that you are staying informed at all of those levels.
Oh. And with that, I can't believe our hour goes by so quickly. I'd like for you to talk directly to that listener who is saying, I'm just tired and I'm overwhelmed. And they have come across our conversation. What do you want to say to that listener who's listening now?
I'm going to say to the listener, this isn't easy. This is not a space where we have an overnight solution. There's a lot that needs to be worked on. But I want to encourage you, like what we talked about earlier, make sure you're not asleep when the decisions need to be made. Make sure that you're ready for game day. Yeah, game day is energizing. It's exciting. But, Dr. V, we have to get ready for game day. Remember, you can't go out cold on the court. You can't go out cold on the field because you're going to get injured. Got to be ready, informed, and prepared. Get ready for game day.
Get ready for game day. There you have it. Gina, I so appreciate you as a sister friend, as our state representative, as the continuation of the legacy of your husband, and how you stand in the gap for so many people, and you continue to do the work. I know, sister friend, that it is not easy, and you stay the course, and you stand in integrity. And so I say thank you. I thank you for continuing to lean in on our sisterhood and come in for the show. But in the moments when nobody else is watching, I know your integrity is the same. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. So your message today is get ready for game day. Don't sleep. It is not time to sleep. Use your voice. It has power. It has value. It is significant. Regardless of what your position is, you have a voice. It is time to speak out, stand up, live out loud, and fearlessly win. Let's do it. Let's get it ready for game day. Same place, same time, right here next week on the flip side. I can't wait to continue this conversation.
Thank you, Dr. V.
Trauma, toxic stress, broken habits, and hurting heart don't define destiny, but peace isn't passive. It requires an exchange. To create a flip and access peace in the middle of the pieces, you are challenged to make an exchange of the lies that have kept you mentally hostage in basement moments. Resilience isn't about bouncing back, but bouncing forward. Living Strong, the flip side of adversity, brings powerful stories and fearless conversations from experts in the field of business, relationships, emotional, physical, and mental health, and faith-based communities. Each episode creates a brave space with powerful tools from authentic connections. Tune in as we dig in with Dr. Jackson on the flip side of adversity.